So it sounds like living in the neighborhoods, it was like a real sense of community. Everybody was really
Yeah.
very close to each other,
And they had a
Yeah.
good friend, Mr. Hetlinger, his name, Julius Hetlinger. They were neighbors to my godmother down on Moore Street. And then they bought a house on Susquehanna Street, the Hetlingers, Pauline and Julius Hetlinger. They had 3 boys and 1 girl. And the house needed work, outside work and inside. And all the Austrian friends that they had from Eltendorf, Königsdorf mostly, we'd go over on a Sunday. Sometimes the men went on Saturday, and they built a garage down below. You know, they did a lot of work. So we would go over Sunday then, and we'd play with all the kids. Everybody brought their children, the Augustines and the Hollers,
And
everybody.
then they'd have a fire outside in the ground, and they would roast the hot dogs and the. I mean, there was no girth in the whole thing. It was a pit. They dug a hole and they put stones in. They made a fire, and
Yeah.
they were good days.
They were.
Really. And then we'd come home by bus again.
Mm-hmm.
I mean trolley. There was no bus. It was a trolley car.
Charlie.
so it was
like-
almost like Königsdorf was here
Yep.
Yeah.
in Allentown.
Right.
Yeah.
There were so many people from Königsdorf living there.
Yeah. So, and then later on, from Mr. Holler, he had gotten a car, and then he would drive us.
Right. They had a car.
We would go by trolley, but he would drive us home most times. Yeah. So, and his family. So, he and a lot of the Austrian people, they had wine presses, and they would get the grapes, and they would make wine, and
Big barrels.
big, and then not necessarily laying sideways, it was up. And to get the wine out, they had like a big pot, you know, and they'd pour it in. They didn't sell any, they just used it for themselves. And he had people in the one night, went down on Railroad Street.
He brought a friend home.
And they were drinking the wine, and then when his friend left, he was still downstairs. And my mother was so mad because he wouldn't go to bed. So she turned out the lights and locked the door and went up to bed. And he's howling, Daisy, Daisy. My mother's name, like Teresa, he would say, Daisy, Daisy. And I think he finally called you, and you went down and unlocked them. But
But
and
I
then came
remember
up.
that he brought home a friend,
Mm-hmm.
and the barrels were longwise laying. No, it was
No,
up.
they were
It
up.
must have been up.
Yeah,
Up,
because
he went to reach into the barrel and he fell in.
Into the barrel.
And I'm saying to my mom, "Help me pull him out! Pull him out!" Mom's saying, "Let him drown." To go out, we'd go to the clubs.
Yeah.
The Liederkranz, the Allgemeiner, and
Harry Gary.
whatever. Every weekend we would go. I was only 15 when we went to the clubs,
Mm-hmm.
and there always was a guard at the door, just supposedly check your ID, right? But we'd say Carl France, which was my father, and he'd say okay,
I remember.
and we'd go in, and one of the ladies that we would go in groups, girls mostly, and then sometime there was a couple guys that when Willie bundled and he had a car, he drove us, but we traveled in groups. We didn't travel one on one, you
No.
know. And we would go and we would dance and we would have a great time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So your parents weren't very strict then about.
Not about that. They knew where we were, and
Mm-hmm.
you know. And from the time we lived on Chew Street, when they went out on a Saturday night, they always took us along.
Mm-hmm.
No matter where they went, we never had a babysitter. They took us along. They went down the Liederkranz or the Allgemeiner, and we'd end up laying on the table, sound asleep,
So it was good time
till
to
it
go.
was time to go home.
We got a candy bar and a soda. And sometimes when they stopped playing the music in between, they had a break. Then we would all get up and slide on the floor, try to dance and whatever. But then we'd get off the floor when the adults were dancing.
Because all the other kids were there with you.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm. No,
It was a good time. It was a
Good.
nice time, really.
I thought we had a good childhood.
I thought so
And
too.
we weren't rich, of course, and nobody was that we knew. All our friends were in the same boat, so they all got menial jobs when they could.
Yeah, we thought we were rich because we had everything we needed.
Right?
And my mom cooked and canned foods, and my pop on a Saturday when he was home, when he wasn't crocked, he used to take the wagon. We had a wagon, and he would walk up to where the mall is now from Ridge Avenue down Chew Street up there was Wolf's Orchard. He used to pick fruit, whatever fruit was in season. And he would get 2 bushel baskets full of fruit that put in the wagon. That was his pay for the day. And so he would come home with the fruit and whatever, and my mom used to can it and, you
Make
know,
strudels or whatever
Yeah.
with the apple.
yeah. So,
This was a nice time.
They were just sort of doing everything that they did
right.
Yeah.
back in Austria. It wasn't
That's right.
Right.
a different life at all. was
We
it?
Yeah.
never went hungry.
No,
I don't ever remember not. The only thing I always remembered, I always wished we had a cake,
oh, yeah.
a cupcake or something, because we never had those things. We used to have strudels, the high strudels or the little ones with the
Or stretch
apples
dough.
in it, and stretch dough and
And other people had
Pickles
birthday
and-
cakes. My mother later on, she tried to bake, and it was really, it came out so little. It just was something was missing in her baking. But she did good with her Austrian.
oh yeah, she was a great baker.
Mm-hmm.
Now,
He did have a friend, Joe Holler, Mr. Holler. He had a little stand down at Jordan Park. He was his friend from Austria, and he wanted to buy a store at 6th and Whitehall Street. And he didn't really have any startup money, so he asked my father for $100. And my father had it. He gave it to him. And from that time on, anytime, we needed flour, the mom bake or whatever, Mr. Holler would give it to us. He didn't pay him back, but he didn't have to. He gave us so much stuff. They were good friends, that all the, Austrian people. Nobody was jealous of one another. They all got along. So